right, and welcome to Fast Break Breakfast, NBA podcast. My name is Keith Parrish, and I'm joined once again by my buddy through the miracle of computer phone, here with Dave DeFore. Dave, how's it going?
Not bad. Not bad. Just hanging out in Idaho.
You're in Idaho? How was Montana basketball camp?
It was awesome.
The home of Phil Jackson and Josh Eustace.
All right. I need to. So the one thing about the Montana basketball camp is some of the names.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not going to say any of the names here because these kids were awesome. I really had a great time. Everybody was super nice and welcoming. But there is a generational gap when it comes to naming children.
Well, sure. There always has been, right? There always has been.
The way that the names are being spelled, and these are high school kids. So When is this? 15 years ago? These are our contemporaries.
Yeah.
Do you do any weird spelling of your kids' names?
My kids have very traditional normie spellings.
Yeah.
But I come across all kinds of interesting names for my children's friends, and of course all kinds of fun spellings. So
yeah. Cameron with a K and a Y is a new one for me.
Where does the Y go? Oh, from where the E normally went?
Yeah.
I like it just fine.
It doesn't bother me. Phonetically, it's fine, obviously.
Yeah.
Maybe even potentially more phonetic, which makes it simpler to read.
Dave, what about Drew with a J? Where do we come down on Drew with a J?
Honestly, it phonetically,
it's
works.
Right. There's nothing you can say about it. You look at it.
But what if it's a soft J?
You know
what I mean? What if we've been saying it wrong this whole time and he's just too nice to correct
as
us?
A human
what if it's
being? Haru. As a human being, I don't think my brain put together that D and R together have a J sound.
Right.
Until I met Drew Holiday. And by met Drew Holiday, I mean
he was introduced.
Heard about him playing basketball. You can't there's some phonetic spelling or there's some spellings of names where you kind of roll your eyes. You're like, oh, the parents got that one wrong.
What if his name was Andrew with a J?
Why not?
That's coming next.
It's got to be. Name your kids right now after Drew Holiday. If Celtics fans aren't naming their kids after Drew Holiday, what are you even doing? Andrew Dice Clay.
Jalen.
I'm naming my kid Andrew Dice Clay Parrish, but it's spelled Anjrue.
DYS.
Yeah. The Celtics got Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis for Marcus Smart.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
Okay, all right. You're right, listener. Malcolm Brogdon and Time Lord were in the deal.
Right.
Two players who have zero trade value as of today. It was a good deal.
That's a great deal.
It was good work.
If Porzingis is back, man, that's
Porzingis and Maxi Kleber both returning. How will the tides shift based on their returns?
Honestly, I think the biggest question, and because we're just making the assumption that Dallas is not going to be the first team ever to lose.
Well, Derek Lively to Maxi Kleber, it's a little gear shift there.
Well, but this is the thing, though. Actually, I think that the Maxi news means we're going to get a sweep. So my concern is that Derek Lively has been far and away the best center for the Mavs in the playoffs. And I would even argue since Gafford got there, Lively's been better. He's a better player, higher motor. His passing is great. They are better with him on the court. Mm-hmm. And they were better with him on the court in the game where he gets injured. And I start getting nervous because, you drop this game and they did blow the lead. But you drop this game, all of a sudden it's 2-1. You're going to be down a man. We didn't know if Maxi was going to make it back for a potential game 4. So you could see a scenario where we're looking sort of like the last series with the Nuggets and the Timberwolves, where starts out 2-0, and next thing you know, we've got a 3-game series at the end, and then that's anyone's series, especially if Lively is going to be out for the entire time. But Maxi coming back solidifies the rotation a bit. It allows them. Maxi is a better defender positionally, maybe than any of the other centers that they have. He can stretch the floor when he shoots.
If
he's not going to be hesitant.
Stretch the floor.
Right. He can stretch the floor.
Dave, it's funny.
And so it helps them out a lot.
Yeah,
Dwight Powell doesn't have to play is really what it is.
So speaking of Kleber and Dwight Powell, it's funny to me thinking back in previous seasons when I feel like we'd watch the Mavericks play and we would think, hey, these bigs are pretty good. Like look at the net ratings when Kleber's on and Luka needs this kind of stretch guy and this lob guy. And it wasn't until we got more talented bigs in there that we were slumming. I cannot believe we lived in a world where we told ourselves oh yeah, Dwight Powell, that's a good big, who can play alongside Luka. It wasn't until we got Gafford and Derek Lively where we're like, oh my Lord, the Mavericks are incredible. These guys are amazing. I hope I never watch Dwight Powell play basketball again. And I don't mean that as such an offensive affront to Dwight Powell. Fine guy. But Lively and Gafford are so much better. And even Lively's been the better of the two, and his rebounding absolutely incredible. He hasn't missed a shot in the conference finals. I think he's made all his twos and all his free throws. But Gafford, who is getting I feel like he's starting to get a little bit too much shade going his way just because of the plus minus stuff. Again, plus minus usually favors the guy coming off the bench. If you're solid, that happens a lot. Gafford's taking the Timberwolves' best punch, the Thunder's best punch, in the matchups. But also, Gafford came through massively at the end of game 3. He gets the huge, ices it with the dunk. He gets the block shot on Mike Conley. He's been a great rim protector. Gafford has been tremendous this playoffs. He's been tremendous since he joined the Mavericks. But anyways, those guys are better than Kleber.
But Maxey is a credible guy to back up and play center. And especially look, 3-0. The Mavericks should be able to close this out. And 5 at the worst, even without Lively. They're just good enough. And I do think it'll be 4.
Much like the Celtics and the Pacers, you want that 7 days off.
I want that 7 days
or 8,
off
is it
so
8?
Bad. I can smell it. It's 8.
8 days off.
I can smell it.
What are you going to do with
your
8 days
really
off,
Dave? Well, it's not really off.
It's off.
This is when we prep for the finals.
Well, this is the difference between regular season podcasting and postseason podcasting. We're still going to do the stuff, but it's more of a leisurely, you can work at your own pace, work at your own time. I don't have to crank out this post-game show right now. It's, there's no game on. I can spend my evening. I can have a luxurious dinner.
I can go to bed at 10:30 if I feel like it.
Yeah. I can I can go play basketball with my little kids all night and not worry about it, which, by the way, I'm doing that next year. Spoiler. It's more fun. I understand all the players who are all the NFL players. Yes, their careers are violent and dangerous. My podcasting career, not violent and dangerous. But anytime someone's like, you know what? It's more fun shooting hoops with my 6 and 9-year-old than it is watching basketball. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So,
it is.
Anyways, where were we? Let's get back. Let's get back to the breakfasts before we dive in further on the Mavs
right now
and the Celtics. We say goodbye to the Pacers. You're writing off the Timberwolves. Oh, one thing I didn't finish my sentence. I now realize that series has been close. Every game's close. The entire series is separated by 13 points. The Pacers, we'll talk more about it. It's wild how close that sweep was. But anyways, Dave, you're in Idaho. What do you eat for breakfast in Idaho?
I don't know yet.
The potato hash? I feel like potatoes
Maybe.
are big. Yeah.
I'm not sure. My best friend is up here, so I'm hanging out visiting, and we're gonna go. There's a bakery nearby or something.
There you go.
I'm gonna get hopefully a good coffee. I don't know. Good coffee is hard to find.
Sounds amazing. I had fruit and yogurt. We went to a little quaint, smallish get together on Memorial Day. Made a cut up a fruit salad for the kids. It was not the most colorful. It was just blackberries, blueberries, some grapes and some strawberries. That's what we had.
You didn't do any like whipped cream in there?
Well, so someone else made some angel food cake. Turns out there was some Cool Whip nearby. We made it happen.
Got it.
No, this is just basically just fruit on its own. But we had plenty left over, so I just put had some whole milk yogurt, and then threw the blueberries and blackberries on top. They got the job done. Also with coffee,
everything's in season,
of course.
All those berries are in season right now, man.
It's berry season, baby.
Yeah.
Anyways, those were our breakfasts. After our breakfast, we moved to our breakfast in bed. Apologies. And this is my chance to make right but what I might have gotten wrong on a previous episode. It's frequently the first time we talk about the NBA. We've already sprinkled in some NBA.
We're jumping right in.
I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm normally loath to apologize for predictions, but I knew it was going to happen, and I have done it. It seems like I've done it. I have picked the Mavericks to lose in every series so far, and whoopsie daisy. That's my bad.
Wow.
In my defense, I didn't know they'd be this good. Okay? I didn't know they'd be this good.
I mean, I picked them in every series so far.
They have these two amazing closers. Their defense is awesome. And they're getting just random pick-me-ups from other guys. But mainly it's about their closers. They got Luka and Kyrie, and their defense has been great. And so that's my mistake. Now, for the Mavericks fans out there, I've seen a lot of this on social media. For the Mavericks fans out there who are aghast that they have not received the proper respect from the podcasters, not so much like myself, but let's say other bigger podcasters. I would just say to those people, I assume they're all wealthy now because I assume they were taking the free money from the casinos who did not have the Mavericks favored in their series. I assumed all of these people have said, oh, wow, we're 10-1 to win the West. Well, that's just free money. I'm taking that. What are we? We're only minus 140 to beat the Clippers? Well, I'm pounding that. That's free. We're underdogs against the Thunder and the Timberwolves for this series? How are they giving themselves money? So congratulations to all the Mavericks fans who I assume they're all wealthy. Anyone saying, look, we won 16 of our final 20 games. We were unbeatable when Gafford started. How could you not see this coming? Give me a loan. I could use some of that money you won.
Vegas is just lucky that I don't gamble.
It's true.
Look, me and Tim Cato were early on this.
I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the Mavericks because I'm in awe of the Mavericks. They've done such a good job in every series. Like even when it looked like Luka was struggling physically, they still seem to be the better team, against the Thunder. Like almost every game, it's like, well, the Mavs have been the better team. And then when you try to write off the 3-point shooting variance, someone else is stepping up. I mean, like, yes, PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. are not hitting shots like they did against the Thunder, but like the defense has just cranked up enough.
Game 3, Derrick Jones Jr. had 3. He was 3 for 3 in the first half.
Yeah.
And PJ Washington also hit a 3. And the Timberwolves were only down 8 at halftime. And it was an awful, and if I recall, I think Karl Anthony Towns was like 2 of 10 and Ant wasn't much better.
Yeah.
And they were only down 8 at halftime. I was like, oh wow, they got a shot to come back. And then the Lively injury, you throw that into the mix. I thought the Mavs might blow it. But then down the stretch, every single time it got tight, they answered the call. And this was why I was so high on them coming into the playoffs, because we always talk about having the best player in the series. They have the 2 best shot makers maybe in the league right now. I mean, Kyrie is one of the most clutch guys. Like, we know about his scoring, and Luka Doncic is right up there with anybody else. I mean, at this point, tight game under 3 minutes, Luka takes a shot. I'm expecting him all to go in. All of them. The mid-range, if he gets 2 feet in the box, it is a wrap. It doesn't matter who it is. He is getting to his fadeaway, and that mid-range is automatic. So, I kind of just suspected they were going to be able to trade off down the stretch of games, and the defense has been so good that I expected them to keep it close. Minnesota's issue has not been really their defense stopping the Mavs. It's actually been their offense stopping the Wolves. They have not been able to score at all. Like, people want to blame Rudy. blame Rudy on the offensive end. Blame the people who aren't finding Rudy for easy dunks on the offensive end. And so if Rudy, like the Rudy stuff is in my opinion backwards, and it's an offensive problem for the Wolves. But when you have a close game, you got a good defense, you got Luka and Kyrie, this is a recipe to win playoff games.
Well, both of the series, the Eastern Conference and Western Conference, it's all about the clutch performance where the Celtics, I think, have a plus 40 net rating in those clutch minutes, and then the Mavericks plus 40 net rating against the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves' lack of offense, especially in the clutch. You saw that game 3. They didn't make a shot in the final 5 minutes until there was like a meaningless layup with 15 seconds left. Cat, you did say, like they got to find Rudy for those dunks. Cat is the leading assister for Rudy dunks in the playoffs on the Timberwolves. But like otherwise, Cat's shooting just horrible. I'm going to talk a lot more about that.
Cat is dodging a lot of criticism. Cat-like reflexes, dodging criticism. I actually have an apology.
Oh, what's your apology, Dave?
To the Pacers.
Yeah.
Well, minus Tyrese Halliburton.
We just disrespected
I really
them.
enjoy the Pacers without Tyrese Halliburton. They're a scrappy team. They're a lot of fun. Play a lot of defense, actually. Andrew Nembhard is kind of a dog. He attacks the basket. He doesn't shy away from the moment. That's a pretty scrappy team. And after watching them not play defense all season, and I mean legitimately not play defense. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton, even in this series, going into a pick and roll defense, he literally just runs away from the play to avoid any sort of, he didn't want to be in the picture for the bucket or whatever. But man, I enjoyed them in game 3 and 4. They're a pretty fun team. I hope that Tyrese Halliburton, when he's healthy, can find a way to be a little bit more serious of a player. I am going to give him the benefit of the doubt here on the hamstring, because leaving with the hamstring in the conference finals, that tells me that hamstring's been bothering him the whole playoffs. So some of my criticism about him is late game, he's not getting inside the 3-point line, much less the paint. And you just can't have your number one guy not applying pressure at 3 levels. It just doesn't work. His mid-range is so good that he actually could turn that into a weapon. And so he leaves a lot on the table to me offensively, and then doesn't even try on defense. So I'm looking forward to seeing Tyrese Halliburton shut me up next season.
So
my apologies to the rest of the Pacers, though.
There you go. After seeing Andrew Nembhard in games 3 and games 4, I think we have to ask the tough question, is Tyrese Halliburton a system player?
Oh, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Nembhard averaging 28 and 10.
Doing this, but Rick Carlisle's been doing this for years.
Honestly,
he will wring the most out of a guard.
He get JJ Barea finals
except for
performance.
Rajon Rondo.
Honestly, I could apologize a little bit to some of the shots I kept throwing at Rick Carlisle. They had some of the coolest out of timeout plays, including that like football 4 verts thing where Miles Turner does the wide receiver cosplay.
So good.
That was hilarious. It ended up in, it gave him, it's a tough look, but it gave him an open look.
Okay. It got him the Neesmith look.
Yeah.
Doug McDermott is wide open for the skip pass on the opposite wing.
Yeah.
That play is fantastic. You can only run it one time.
That play was cool. No,
this is the curse of coaching.
Was the end of the second quarter? There was like a great 1.5 second left. They got McConnell a layup at the buzzer. Yeah. Like there was a lot of cool out of timeout plays for the Pacers. Anyways, those were our apologies. We're going to get more into both of these series right after this short break. All right, so let's start with the Celtics and the Pacers. The Celtics advance, of course, to the NBA Finals, second time in 3 years. Thinking about the Pacers, and like you've already said that, like, you wanted to apologize to them. You were impressed with how they how rugged they performed, I guess, in like games 3 and games 4. But like this whole series, it's wild how close they were. Of course, you could argue like they sort of, they gave away game 1. I think that was a weird collapse. Game 3, they didn't give it away, but they did have a lead, and they had they were up by 6 or 7 in the final 2 minutes. They become the first team to blow 2 5-point leads in the final 2 minutes of any series.
Boston took that game. Like
they
Boston
did. So
took
Boston, that was one where, again, like in game one, you can point to turnovers and like there's always, a lot of times when a team collapses, you would say, look, there's a turnover here, there's missed free throws, like you sort of gave it away. In that one, Boston would make a three and then defend for 24 seconds, and then the Pacers wouldn't score. And that was more of like, eventually, and then Drew Holiday makes his big game clinching plays, gets the and one, gets the steal.
Amazing steal.
But it's still, they were so close. The Pacers were so close in all of these games.
And we wrote them off coming into the series. And in
after every game,
way.
everyone I'm seeing, and I felt the same way. Maybe I didn't podcast and say it out loud, but like we wrote them off coming into the series. When they blew game one, you're like, well, that was the series. And then they blew game three, and you're like, well,
that is the series.
And there's no after game two, you lose Halliburton. So you're like, well, this is the series. And then game three, then game four is close again.
Game four, they're right there.
Yeah, and they're ahead in the fourth quarter. So like they're ahead in the fourth quarter of 3 of the 4 losses. They're ahead in the final 2 minutes in 2 of the 4 losses. I feel like maybe other teams have this too. Like as a Grizzlies fan, it just reminds me of the Grizzlies losing to the Warriors in 2022. Like the Grizzlies lost in 6. They were ahead in the fourth quarter of 3 of the 4 losses. They were ahead in the final 2 minutes of 2 of the 4 losses. Oh, by the way, Ja Morant played 3 of the 6 games. And then same with Halliburton, playing 2 of the 4 games. I feel like for the Pacers, stock up though on like basically everybody, right? As far as like, I think Siakam, like he's a 16-game player. Like Siakam is
absolutely.
He's an awesome post-game player.
He's their best player.
Easily. Yes.
There is no debate with your mom.
Yeah.
Pascal Siakam is their best player. I think they could use a real number 1 guy. I don't know if Siakam is that. But if Siakam is your 2 and Halliburton's your 3, like, as far as the hierarchy goes, that's amazing. I don't know the path for them getting that guy. And it's possible that a full season of Siakam, maybe they get Mathurin back and he's healthy and can help them out. Halliburton's healthy next year. You could see this team maybe being a home court advantage team next season. But the defense is a real problem. And what I saw against Boston from them, it was equal parts effort. And I'll give them credit for the Knicks series too, because the ball pressure that they applied, that was 94 feet of ball pressure wearing down Jalen Brunson. So they actually did take their defense up a notch. But in the regular season, like to get home court, you're going to have to be a top 10, top 12 at least defense. If you're the best offense, you should, somewhere in the 10 to 15 range, you have to have your defense to get home court. I think that needs to be a point of emphasis for them. They're probably ahead of schedule a little bit too.
They're
to a certain degree.
They are. I think that's fair to say. Of course, the Pacers got incredible.
Also, by the way, I'm glad
luck.
we're talking Pacers because I think that, and I've done a poor job of this. I've tried to pull away from it a little bit. This series, the way it's been discussed, has largely been from the perspective of the Celtics. Hey, look at how sloppy they're being. Mm-hmm. They won't stick to their offense. Wow, Jason Tatum goes 5 minutes without touching the basketball. What's happening? Instead of, this Pacers team clearly, like, they didn't have the talent to match up on paper with the Celtics. They figured out a way to be in every game. And that's basketball, right? Like the goal is, can I be in every game? If I'm in every game, I get a chance to win them. And if I can make it a coin toss at the end and I have less talent, well, really, I'm playing above my ceiling. And I think that they did that for the entire series. So I'm glad that we're actually talking about the Pacers part of this. I've been bad about it.
Yeah.
During the series.
I wasn't going to call you out, but I agree, Dave. You were no.
Listen, I don't really care.
I've been down on the Pacers too, just because like I thought they were so unimpressive against the Bucks.
Yeah,
that didn't have the games. They didn't have Giannis or Lillard. I'm like, what are the Pacers even doing? Like they're dying out here against Bobby Portis. But then like it took me a while to adjust, and then they get the Nimhard shot against the Knicks, and all of a sudden they come back. Also, I thought it was cool or interesting how the Celtics, this is game 4. You're up 3-0, and they went full Tibbs playing minutes-wise as far as minutes distribution. They played their guys. They played their starters.
About to have 8 days off, buddy.
About to have 8 days off. That's
they're
right.
Going to Cancun and then coming back.
No, even the bench players. I mean, TJ McConnell was great. Andrew Nembhard, like we said, was amazing in the last. I mean, yes, the last 2 games, but also like Nembhard for the postseason. 17 games, averaged 15 points per game, made 48%
game player
of his threes. Like that guy seemed, like you said, 16-game player. He seemed to be like,
is he a starter?
He didn't. I mean,
is he a guy that could another team? I mean, I don't. If I'm the Pacers, I'm never giving him up. I don't even know what his contract is like. But I feel like he earned himself a better role for sure, and probably a lot of money.
I mean, he turned heads. I mean, he started almost the whole year though, right? Alongside Halliburton.
Yeah, he did. I mean, but a bigger role.
Give him his team type of player. I don't know. I don't know. I was so impressed, and even like Obi Toppin played really, really well. He's going into free agency. Miles Turner was fine. Miles Turner pretty good. I mean, Obi is he's a 6-man offensive cook. He just cooks. He can't. Just because he's tall doesn't mean he can't.
He's also
just
athletic.
Be a Jamal Crawford. Yeah, I mean, he just lights it up. The Celtics, they got, I mean, just tremendous games from their. I mean, they're starters. Like and I say like Jaylen Brown, who won Eastern Conference Finals MVP. I once again forgot that's an award. I didn't know we had that.
Silly. Is it Larry Bird Award?
Is it? I don't know.
Maybe and I think West is Magic.
Yeah, sure.
They named all these awards, and
Sounds great.
I no longer care about any of them.
But I thought Jaylen Brown was amazing. I thought Jason Tatum was. I mean, the standard's different because maybe you expect more because he's one of the 5 to 10 best players in the NBA. He was fine. Drew Holiday found his stroke, which I think is so important for the Celtics. He'd been struggling with that, and he has some postseason shooting difficulties in his career, but like he started making shots all the time. Derek White is just awesome. Al Horford hooks up the rejuvenation machine every postseason as long as he's not on the Sixers, and he looks great. So now the Celtics 12-2 in the postseason, crushing teams when it matters at the end of games. They're winning all the tight games. I mean, where are you on the Celtics right now? Because I feel like the way all of us sort of feel is like we're a little bit disappointed. This is like the most underwhelming 12-2 run to get in the finals ever. But I don't know if are we underestimating the teams they've played? We said we underestimated the Pacers. So like, where are you with the Celtics right now?
It's the soft bigotry of high expectations, right? Like this is a team that could and should be great. The numbers indicate that they were an excellent regular season team, but I feel like they left stuff on the table. They left stuff on the table in this series. They left stuff on the table throughout the playoffs, largely because there are just times where you got to get the bleep ready for this.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
But they play like assholes. They throw passes that make no sense. Early shot clock, jack up a shot. They could get like their points per possession if they actually valued each possession could be extremely high. They have so many high-level decision makers. And that's where the frustration lies. For me, like personally, Jason Tatum, it sometimes feels like you don't feel him impacting the game. Doesn't mean he isn't, but you don't feel him in the same way that you do with like Luka, even Kyrie, like the way Kyrie can take over for stretches of the game. Tatum has it in him, but it always feels like it involves trips to the free throw line, and I personally, aesthetically hate that. But also I just like to see the guy, he is their best player. And when they're struggling, it seems like he doesn't touch the ball. So when they're struggling, I want to see Jason Tatum kind of demand the ball a little bit more. But what we're looking at, this is like, the third coach. This is the 5th or 6th playoff run, whatever this is for this team, as it's mostly constructed, the Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum combo. And this has been a problem for them throughout, when their offense gets in the mud and they're just so talented. And it's funny because people give Charles Barkley a little bit of flack for saying this and discounting him, saying they win on talent. They absolutely win on talent. Look at how often they just don't run any offense whatsoever. Look at how many threes they shoot, the volume of threes. This is a team that gets by on their talent. And when they play basketball together, they're amazing. Like they should win the title. They have so much talent. If Porzingis is healthy, this should not be that difficult of a series for them. But I think the Mavs are going to beat them.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat right now, thinking the Mavs going to beat them, and it's the shot difficulty level.
Right.
And of course, the Mavericks take super hard shots, but they also sprinkle in a lot of lobs for dunks, and they get a lot of open looks for their role players. And, the Mavericks, or the Celtics, excuse me, have fewer role players they're playing. They're basically only playing their starters. But, all of these shots are tough, it seems like. And they're spamming three-pointers. They're not getting a lot of assists. And I think back to when I used to play NBA Live a ton, 20 years ago. And you'd play NBA Live, and one of the fun parts about that video game was most of the time you had to work to get a good shot. If you got a good shot, you could be upset if it didn't go in or whatever. But usually if you were guarding a guy or if you're playing your buddy and you're guarding his shooter and his shooter makes the shot, you're like, this is what in the world? That wasn't fair. When I watched the Celtics play, they just hit these what in the world shots over and over and over, where it's well, Derek White's just going to pull up unassisted, and he makes a lot of them. And Drew Holiday, same thing. And of course, Tatum and Brown, they are these cheat codes that they are incredible offensive players, and they just keep making more shots, and it doesn't feel like it's sustainable. But of course, 12-2 in the postseason, walked into the NBA Finals.
It's because we have expectations of them, and we would like to see it. I've been accused of being a Celtics hater of some sort, and it's no, man, I hate every team equally because they all do the same dumb stuff. I want to see this team that I think is very talented and better than the other teams rise above it. And really it's about, have some pride, play some basketball instead of just, chucking when you do.
NBA.com tells me the Celtics have a slightly better assist percentage than the Mavericks. So there you go. Yeah. You make tough shots, you get credited for assists. So the Mavericks are up 3-0 on the Timberwolves. Last game 3, Luka and Kyrie both scored 33 points. Not to be too reductive, but again, this 3 games so far separated by 13 points. And for the Timberwolves, you have the role players playing pretty well. Mike Conley, Jaden McDaniels hitting their shots. This comes down to
they're wasting this Mike Conley performance.
And they really are.
They're never going to get it again.
Mike Conley, 0 for 7 in the conference finals in his career. Bless his heart. Speaking of that, back on the Grizzlies, he got swept by the Spurs. 2 games went to overtime. No one remembers. It was a competitive sweep. They're getting, I feel like, good enough play from everybody, except Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, and most of this, unfortunately, goes to Karl Anthony Towns. Maybe Ant's getting off easy because he's charismatic and lovable, and he does play a lot of defense. He plays defense. He's been distributing the basketball. He's been picking up assists. I mean, he had a flurry. He had that dunk in the third quarter, and then he put together. It felt like a Michael Jordan-esque run.
That was crazy.
He had a good game for him. I saw some very compelling evidence that it was the before and after stats after that really hard fall against the Nuggets, where it's since then he's whatever. His shooting percentages are terrible. His points per game are way down. But Ant hasn't stepped up as much as you would have hoped. And then Cat, his offense is just not there. And that's the difference, right?
Honestly, he said he's getting up 1,500 shots a day right now, which is a lie. But maybe he's shooting too much in practice.
Yeah.
He's overthinking it.
Stop. Yeah. Just go watch Mad Max. Go get an ice cream. Go get a frozen yogurt, man.
Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen it. No. Did you see it?
No, I don't go to the theater.
Yeah.
Which is sad because I used to love the movies.
Sad Memorial Day opening for our Mad Max Furiosa.
I mean, but also, listen, all right, we don't get a lot of, Mad Max style movies. We get the same garbage recycled.
Well, they made one for us, and where's the crowd?
They're going to make another Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Cat's shooting performances.
Not good.
I mean,
greatest shooting big man ever.
I don't know. any other way to talk about this, Dave, let's go ahead and do the award segment of the program. This is the International Stackhouse of Pancakes Award, given to the worst performance in a box score of the week. We have one honorable mention, Dave.
Okay.
The honorable mention is Anthony Edwards, was 5 for 17. We have 3 nominees, Dave. 3 nominees this week. Here they are as they occurred chronologically throughout the last week. Karl Anthony Towns in game 1, 6 for 20. 16 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 turnover, 2 personal fouls. Our next nominee, Karl Anthony Towns in game 2, 4 for 16, 15 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 0 turnovers, 2 personal fouls. And our final nominee, Karl Anthony Towns in game 3, 5 for 18, 14 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, no turnovers, 2 personal fouls. So our 3 nominees this week to choose between: Karl Anthony Towns, 6 for 20, Karl Anthony Towns, 4 for 16, Karl Anthony Towns, 5 for 18. Who you got, Dave?
Okay, hang on a second. I need to look. Let me defend this man real quick. Give me a second. I need to see the box score. Wasn't Anthony Edwards 6 of 24 in one of these games, or was that against the Nuggets?
That was last
I can't
week.
remember.
That was last week.
All right. Everything we're all bleeding together with the stats. Okay. All right. I'm just checking. Oof.
I think we got to give it to Karl Anthony Towns. Yeah. Congratulations. Which game doesn't matter.
That's a sweep.
That's a sweep. Never before in the history of the International Stackhouse of Pancakes, now in the 10th season of Fastbreak Breakfast, have all 3 nominees been the same person.
That's an awful run. I mean, it's not even the Mavs defense has been good.
It has been good. Yeah, it's been good.
But he's just missing. He's missing shots.
So I'm very close to this issue where the Mavs defense has been good, but one of the issues with the Timberwolves as constructed is there are some offense zeros.
Well, this is what we talked about coming in.
And this is like my guy Kyle Anderson, who Chris Finch after game 3 is like, he said I should have played Kyle Anderson more. And I'm like, ooh, I love that. Tell me everything. And then like you see Dane Moore, Timberwolves podcaster, one of the main ones, he was saying, all right, maybe like I think I want Cat, some people like Kyle Anderson. Let me get this straight. So Kyle Anderson actually said after the game, maybe Cat should get in the paint more, maybe echoing maybe a more traditionalist thing, like maybe shoot less. And then Dane Moore says, honestly, I wish Cat would just shoot more 3-pointers. He has to keep shooting 3-pointers constantly for this Timberwolves offense to work. Chris Finch, says Cat should have played more. I see other, I can't remember who it was, but another Timberwolves podcaster being like, Kyle Anderson was good, but like when we play Kyle Anderson, Cat's shots are harder, right. Because like you can help off of him. And as great as Jaden McDaniels has been shooting in almost every game, but I think one, he's not an offensive threat. And Mike Conley, who had good games 2s and 3s, it's like, I don't know. The Mavericks are able to focus on, let's just keep Cat's shots difficult. And I don't know. I haven't rewatched all these games to be like Cat's. I mean, obviously his 3-point percentage is horrible. Was he 4 for 32 or something? And like
something like that.
So I don't know. Like if this is a built-in flaw of the way the roster is constructed, there's not enough offensive outlets to make it easy on Cat, or maybe it's just Cat. Like you got to make some shots.
It's a slump.
Yeah,
it's a slump at this point. I think that the track record that he has as a shooter it's good enough that we just say, all right, this is a bad stretch. I mean, we've seen Klay Thompson do this.
Yeah.
In the last couple,
Well, Klay Thompson is like, he's over his prime. This is the downward slope of Klay Thompson. We have seen this historically, Dave, by the way. Here we go. Cat is the 3rd player since the merger in the playoffs to have 3 straight games shooting under 30%. With at least 16 field goal attempts in each of those games. Bonzi Wells did this for the Blazers in 2003. Tim Hardaway Sr. did this for the Heat in 1997. Those are the only 3 who in all 3 games in a row, shot under 30% in each game, attempted at least 16 field goal attempts. Before the merger, of course, our guy Jumpin' Joe Folks did this twice. No big deal.
Yeah.
No big deal for Joe Folks. Of course, Bob Cousy, Joe Grabowski, not to be left out.
Listen, don't forget, they were bad at basketball.
Yes, they were. Looking at 3-game spans in the conference finals, this is where maybe you have a slightly not as horrible game sprinkled in. There's been a lot of guys who have had 3-game spans where they shot under 30%. There's something I'm seeing it, like 19 players have done that. Jimmy Butler did this 2 years ago with the Heat in the conference finals, against the Celtics. The most notable one, you just said Allen Iverson. Take a look at these stats from Allen Iverson in 2001. This is the series where the 76ers beat Ray Allen and the Bucks. He had a 3-game span where Iverson went 5 for 26, 10 for 32, and then 5 for 27. That's hooping right there, Dave. That's real hooping.
2 up, 2 down, man.
A 5 for 26 and a 5 for 27 in the same conference finals. That's incredible stuff. It's remarkable stats. So Cat isn't alone.
That's not beating yourself. You know what I mean? Like, that's actually a positive. These guys are just, they're so good. They're not going to, you're going to have to beat them.
You're not going to let someone else lose the game. That was Allen Iverson. Right. I'm not going to let Eric Snow lose this game. Aaron McKee's not losing this one for me. I'm going to shoot it.
Jeff Teague dropped another good story.
Did he?
Good, floating around social media. Speaking of last shots, I won't spoil it for anybody because he tells it pretty well. But
Allen Iverson,
you'll love it.
In that 3-game span, Allen Iverson, if you didn't add those up on your own, that's 85 field goal attempts. He was 20 for 85 over a 3-game span. Missed all 17. 18%. It's 23%. It missed all 17 of his 3-point attempts. A true shooting percentage of 30. They went 2-1. That's the good era of NBA basketball. Other guys who have done this recently, like Meta World Peace, Jimmy Butler, Chris Paul a few years ago, Chris Middleton, back when we were maybe had some questions about Chris Middleton's post-season efficacy. My boy Zach Randolph back in 2013. Anyways, Cat has to shoot better.
Yeah, well, and he has to keep shooting.
Yeah. Are there anything else? Is there anything else from the Timberwolves side of this that they could? I mean, again, they've been right there. They've been close in all these games. They just can't close. And this was the offense. This was the issue we worried about going into the postseason. It was not an issue against the Suns or the Nuggets. Now here it is. And the stark contrast of a team with 2 closers against a team with no closers.
Well, and also it's the Mavs defense is elite right now. It's elite. They are making it more difficult than the Nuggets made it and more difficult than the Suns made it by a lot. And that difference is the difference. But Ant's got to shoot better. Cat's got to shoot better. And they got to find ways. I mean, like Rudy Gobert needs like 12 points. He needs like 6 easy buckets on dunks or 6 easy points on dunks and a couple of putbacks. Like that's what they need. And they're not getting it from those guys.
So in hindsight, much like the Celtics getting Drew Holiday for what looks to be a paltry sum, in retrospect, all of those trades the Mavericks made. I mean, obviously the Kyrie situation, toxic asset, no other suitors. When the trade was made, there was real, consternation about like, wow, the Mavericks are all in.
Hey,
this was their last ship. How
many people said Luka's out?
Well, that was the thing. They've hitched their wagon. That was, I think, the proper analysis at the time.
Yeah,
was to be concerned that the Mavericks had hitched their wagon. They'd sent out their last thing. They gave up a couple of role players, Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith, and a first-round pick. Basically, the last first-round pick, or like one of the only few first-round picks they could trade. They did that to bring in Kyrie Irving. And oh, by the way, they missed the playoffs, with him. And it was like, what? And I know they tanked the final game. Reminder, their odds of winning, even if they won, their odds of making the playoffs were low. They had already basically missed the playoffs. Also, people are saying like, oh, getting Derek Lively, that really hampers the no tanking or the debate against tanking. It's like, all right, are we going to have a lot of teams that choose to miss the playoffs for the 12th pick? That's slightly different.
Right.
I mean, I think it's kind of interesting to do it. It obviously worked out. You got Derek Lively. But Kyrie playing like this, and when you look back at the trade costs, nothing. And then you look at, again, the Gafford and PJ Washington deals. Modest prices. Anyone could have had these guys. I love it for both those guys individually. I think I've said this on the show before, but just my excitement of those guys being rescued from garbage basketball situations. Where now they're going to play in amazing basketball situations.
These guys haven't had to play hard.
No.
Because they've been playing for nothing.
Yeah.
So when we see, I think PJ Washington has been fantastic as far as the playoffs go. I mean, Gafford has also been very good. But the PJ Washington thing, he had a couple of good years. And then everything fell off a cliff there with the organization. And then he wallowed. I wasn't surprised to see him go to an environment. And by the way, Jason Kidd, who we've made fun of, I have joked about Jason Kidd a lot as a coach. Jason Kidd crushing it as a coach with this team. The vibes are amazing. And then you add these guys who are coming from, the not as good environments where you're not winning, and you plug them into there, and to see them, the effort is higher. The activity is higher. PJ Washington has just been awesome, man. Perfect addition. Would have been great for a bunch of teams. And I think they did. It's a matter of it's a little bit of a lack of creativity. It's saying, I don't see the good player on the bad team here. I just see a guy who's not that good. Mm-hmm. And the credit to the Mavericks for bringing the guy in and seeing if it was going to work. I mean, he's a good athlete. He can shoot, and he will shoot. I compared it to Aaron Gordon going to Denver. Yeah. Even though he didn't have the same, number one role, I did think he was going to be in a better role for him and just a better team overall. He slides down. He's the fifth most important guy on the court most of the time, sometimes fourth.
So you mentioned Kyrie's clutch performance. I'd like to reiterate, he was my clutch player of the year.
Well,
in the regular season, the Mavericks were 16-4 in clutch games when Kyrie played, and Kyrie had a 72% true shooting percentage in those clutch performances. And once again, you're just seeing it it. It feels like it when the Mavericks shoot these shots that the daggers are going in. You're like, you can just see the confidence of his body language of Kyrie, on the step back before he shoots it. You're like, oh, he's perfectly. This is just going in.
When he got Karl Anthony Towns over on the wing and took him to the baseline, I was like, oh, that's it. That's a wrap.
And of course the big Luka game winner, the controversially leaving Rudy Gobert on an island. Tough play, easy to second guess when it occurred. Luka steps up. Now, he has multiple game winners in his postseason career, always hitting those step back 3-pointers. I thought this was funny. I think it was in game 3. Jaden Hardy got Gobert on a switch, and he got Gobert up in the air. He drew a foul. All right, that was bad defense. Stay on your feet, Gobert. But I also thought it was funny. The commentators were like, I don't know why the Timberwolves are leaving Gobert isolated there. Maybe send a soft double. And I was like, send a soft double on Jaden Hardy?
Jaden Hardy?
I was like, no, you live with the Jaden Hardy one-on-one mid-range moves. That cracked me up.
I don't know. Hey, listen, that Luka 3, he never should have gotten. They should have blitzed him, taken the ball out of his hands. Plenty of time left on the clock if you give up the lively dunk or whatever. But you absolutely cannot have Luka or Kyrie taking a 3 in that position. So I'm not as harsh about Rudy on anything, because I actually think individual defensive possessions, you're over analyzing if that's what you're looking at, right? They're plus 10 with him on the court.
Yeah.
in the series. I mean, they've got a 110 or a +3, excuse me. They have a 110 defensive rating when he's on the court, 135 when he's off.
Yeah, so
they're not even in this series at all. It's not close if he's not out there.
The strategy on that possession, his job was supposed to be, according to the post-game pressers, was his job was to make sure Luka does not shoot a three-pointer.
Right.
Which, again, like, how's Rudy supposed to do that? So Rudy could have been tighter and let him go by him. Watching the play, the big question mark is, like, why is Kyle Anderson not leaving Derrick Jones Jr. to – maybe it makes it a scramble. You put yourself at a disadvantage, but like, how's Kyle not doubling Luka there to make it?
You have Jaden McDaniels, and Rudy could have just blitzed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you give up the pass to Lively. I don't care.
You give the pass to Lively, and he's a solid free throw shooter, but like, also foul him, make it happen. I think that's interesting too. People are saying, like, if you're up 2 and there's time on the clock, the play is just foul. Just commit a foul. You know, like, does the math work out if it's a 75% free throw shooter? I mean, it's riskier. It's not something U.S. teams do. I don't know. Do you feel like European teams, they probably found that situation? They want the ball back.
I don't think so. I don't think so. You have a lead. You want to protect the lead. You just can't give up the 3.
Yeah.
Not like that.
Here's my...
but it's a step back still, by the way. A step back is not like a great shot. This is not like... It has become a staple of the shot diet that we're used to, because these guys are long, and that's just how you have to create space. But it's not like this is an ideal shot, an off the dribble step back. And for Luka, he likes to go left on the step back, and he's going right on this one.
Yes.
I mean, I just think, like, if you go and look at the previous possession where Gobert switched on to Luka, he does a great job of guarding him. This is just okay defense. I'm not going to say it was great defense. It was okay, though. He stayed in front. And way better offense, which Luka has cooked everyone. How come we didn't do this whole, how can we call this guy the best defender in the world? Which, by the way, no one does. Defensive player of the year doesn't mean you're the best defender in the league. It means you were responsible for the best defense in the league. That's how we award the award. Wemby is an outlier by coming in second with the team defense being so low, but he was by far the best individual defender in basketball this year because he's ridiculous.
Well,
but Anthony Davis gets cooked by Jamal Murray every time they play, and no one says a word.
Yep.
And Jamal Murray is not Luka Doncic.
Yeah. I have long wanted defensive player of the year to go to, like, I don't know, who's the best at guarding a guy one-on-one? Like that for me, for me is more interesting.
When Kawhi won it, that was what happened. And the thing is, it's more about the NBA does a poor job, I think, of adding context for these awards and saying, they're voters, here are the parameters. Now, it's great because you want people to talk about this stuff. You want people to be mad about snubs. You want, all of these things. But this was obvious. This is Rudy's last Defensive Player of the Year award. We won't have to have this conversation, this boring conversation anymore.
Yeah. Well, here's my strike against Wemby. And this is purely anecdotal, but so there was these clips where there'd be these 2-on-1s where everyone would make a business decision, and they're like, I'm not going to go at Wemby. And people were using this to pump up Wemby. And I got to say, as the diehard Grizzlies guy, I got to point out the flaws to one of these. One of these, it was a 2-on-1 where it was a couple of bigs. It was Trey Jemison and Brandon Clark, and neither one's like, well, I'm not dribbling into Wemby. Then they throw it out to Jordan Goodwin. Jordan Goodwin, terrible shooter. Wemby closes out to Goodwin at the 3-point line. Goodwin goes right around him for a layup. So I was like, that is not a good clip for Wemby. That's a horrible clip for Wemby's Defensive Player of the Year argument. But you're right. He's going to win the next 7 or 8. Here's my most old man compliment of Luka Doncic, Dave. I give Luka Doncic a lot of credit for becoming a better free throw shooter. I don't feel like we see this a lot. I waited LeBron's entire career and Dwayne Wade's entire career to be like, why aren't you guys shooting 80% from the foul line? Like, when is that going to happen? Luka was a 74% free throw shooter. It was, turnovers and mediocre.
I mean, he was
free
in
throw
the
shooting.
upper 60s.
Yeah.
I mean,
at one point, but like, so he'd gotten up to 74% or so. I consider that a fantasy basketball liability in my categories leagues. But this year, he kicked it to 79%, and now he's making 81% in the playoffs. I mean, we're only talking about like a half point per game. That's what the bump in free throw percentage is, but that's huge to me. And that's just like, that's showing him improving. And we still kind of forget. I mean, Mavs fans don't forget because they're always throwing like the age, like, look what he's doing at this age. But like, he's still so young. And the fact that he actually did improve on that. And there were multiple times.
I've been watching this guy for a decade.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I forget that he's 25.
Yeah, he's been incredible. And this goes back to my apology of like not totally believing in the Mavericks. I had like skepticism about him as the heliocentric, like how far can that actually carry you? Can you win a title? And I think this is definitely correlated with the pieces around him getting better. So it's not just that he's, carrying it all by himself. Having Kyrie as the Robin to his Batman performance, like that's a big part of it. Having those centers who are playing awesome, getting, like we don't see Tim Hardaway Jr. playing anymore. It's now you have Derrick Jones Jr. playing really, really well. I mean, you give, I guess I would probably give Doncic some credit in how well Derrick Jones Jr. has played. I think there's a big part of that. Much like I feel like Jokic uplifted Bruce Brown and Jokic has uplifted Aaron Gordon. And like, I would not probably sign Kentavious Caldwell-Pope if I were a team with cap space. I mean, I think he's good, but also I think he's getting that Jokic boost where like everybody looks a lot better. And so like, I give Doncic some credit for elevating those guys around him, but like all this to say, Luka has been like the clear, like, oh my God, he's the best player playing it right now. And It looks like he has a good chance of winning a title. So I didn't totally expect that. Even as good as I always knew Luka was, this has surprised me that it came this way. Yeah.
I assumed this summer we were going to be talking about Jokic and his place in history now that he, 3-time MVP, back-to-back titles, because in that scenario, he's, if he runs off and wins a third title, I mean, now where do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's just funny how, 2 months, things have changed so much. So, and
so much of it also, when we talk about that sort of stuff, goes into the thing we mentioned in the last episode, just the parity now. It looks like the's going to be more and more guys. I got a ring. And then who gets the second one?
Be a star today.
Go.
I mean, it's a different place. I think it's a lot of fun.
Let's take another break and then we'll come back and answer a listener submitted question. It's now time for the croissant questioner.
Yes. Are you going to finish that?
I wish you played the music live.
I tried. It messes up the Zoom. Anyways. Dave, parentheses guy, asks, not you, Dave.
Not me.
Dave Guy asks,
I'm that guy.
If the Lakers hire JJ Redick, does his head coaching career last longer than Steve Nash's?
But how many seasons did Steve make?
Wasn't like 1.5? I could look it up right now, I guess.
Can't remember.
NBA coaches.
I don't know, man. I don't know. For years, every season we got Jeff Van Gundy might coach the Rockets. Mark Jackson talking to teams. It seems like the TV guys who were coaches, their agents were very good at negotiating through the media. I don't know if that's what this is. I have no idea. But it seems like a lot of things are calculated. The podcast, drawing up floppy. Oh, look at this. Whatever that is. I don't know. I think he makes it. What if he's good?
What if he's good?
Right? This is what I keep thinking.
What if he's not good?
But LeBron James is uncoachable, so it doesn't really matter, right? Like, they could hire Keith. They could hire. What's your oldest? How old?
My son. Yeah, they can hire. Yeah, Chase Buddy
your
Budinger.
son.
Yeah, he's 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could just say, hey, LeBron, okay, run a pick and roll. Don't play defense. Don't worry about it. Don't sweat it.
Steve Nash coached
I don't know.
161 games. He was fired 7 games in, or what did he resign? Quit? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Was asked to kill himself. With honor.
Yeah.
Was asked to
I think JJ makes it 2 seasons.
I would say I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna say he makes it 3 seasons. I am surprised. There's like this hoops hype report about who his coaching staff is going to be if, in fact, he gets hired to be coach. I don't remember seeing one of those before.
Right.
Like, here's the whole coaching staff, and I'm like,
wow, this is people he would be interested in joining the staff, right? Which again, this is just, I don't know. It's very weird. It's all weird.
It's also weird. All right.
Just hire a basketball coach, man. Like, you don't have to hire the former player podcast guy. Just get a real basketball coach and let him coach.
It also gets weirder with all the Bronny James news.
Hire Frank Vogel.
Bronny James, Rich Paul, Clutch CEO, has said that Bronny James will not take a 2-way contract. Also, Bronny James right now has canceled workouts for teams and is only working out for the Suns and the Lakers. Any pretense that Bronny James is just a regular prospect, right out the window. Like, this would be madness if anyone else did this.
I mean, he's not a prospect, is he?
I can't say he is now. If you're saying, if
he's a fringe 2nd round pick, and I've done no draft work because most of the guys don't play, and it winds up being a waste of my time. From everything I understand from the people whose information on the draft I trust, he's a fringe 2nd round guy, and if that. And he also, and look, I don't know why we beat around the bush on this. He had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if we're treating him like any other prospect.
Yeah.
Is this guy getting, like, no. He's like, you're going to sign maybe as a free agent.
Fringe 2nd rounders saying, I won't take a 2-way and I won't work out for teams.
Because it's
any pretense of it being a normal thing.
And this is where I get into, Dave, people start accusing me of hating the NBA because it's a branding and marketing exercise more than a basketball league at times. And frankly, like, one of the reasons I like the playoffs is because right now the guys that are playing are hooping.
Yeah.
Nobody's out there selling me potato chips or whatever.
Let's answer another question. Major Rich wants to know. Here's a baseline of a Cavs trade. He's spelling out a Cavs trade for us.
It's going to have 4 teams.
Just 2 teams between the Spurs and the Cavs. Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen to the Spurs for the 4th pick, the 8th pick, Keldon Johnson, Zach Collins, and a future first.
Call it in.
All right. He says, what else would need to be in that trade for it to be agreeable to both sides?
That's call it in.
4
Spurs are the 6th seed.
And a future first, plus Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins for Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen.
Done deal.
I'm not in a rush. When I think about the Spurs, this is why I've said before in previous episodes, like, I'm not trading to get Trae Young. I don't want to send out my firsts. I'm not in a rush. However, if I got Jarrett Allen and Darius Garland and it cost me 2 picks this year, I mean, what are we talking about?
And you keep Devin Vassell,
Topic, and Rob Dillingham? Yeah, who cares? Yeah, I would try. You got Garland, I think important shooting point guard for this team.
Great passer.
Jarrett Allen, modest contract for the next 2 seasons. Could be a nice backstop to Wemby. I want him in Memphis pretty bad. I feel like that's as much as I'm not trying to accelerate the Wemby timeline, that doesn't feel like you're giving away too much. And if you're picking up, 2 all-stars, like, yeah, okay. Like, yeah, I like that.
That's a good deal.
That's a pretty decent trade.
That's a good deal.
I like it way more than any of these, like, Garland for Brandon Ingram trades. I can't trade for Brandon Ingram until I know what Brandon Ingram's next contract's going to be. I hate to be all dunked on Brain there, but, like, I can't pay Brandon Ingram $50 billion or $60 million. He's not that good.
Right. But marketing and branding says.
Yeah. Anyways, Dave. Those were our croissant questions. If you want to submit your own question, you can do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. If it's not answered on air, it'll be answered on the monthly bonus episode. I'll be dropping a bonus episode on Thursday. So if you want an extra episode of Fast Break Breakfast, come join patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right, Dave, par fadeaway. It looks like it's Mavs Celtics. You've already said you're thinking the Mavs.
I'm shopping for flights to Dallas.
Stamping it. Yeah.
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 I would like it to happen tonight.
It seems like an amazing matchup, and I think the Celtics still have the talent advantage, and maybe it comes down to, the storylines. Come on, Kyrie against the Celtics, Kristaps against the Mavericks. If Kristaps comes back and plays, like they said, he was so close to playing. He's supposed to be there, so you'd assume a week from now he'd be back.
Yeah.
And then Tatum and Doncic. Two young superstars in the NBA. Just incredible storylines all around.
Boston going to Dallas,
It's all of it. It's gonna be great. I lean Mavericks all the way. I don't know how much, there's the benefit in my mind of being battle tested, of having, I think, a much tougher road to get to this point. But then maybe there's a benefit of not being strained, But
there's the thing with the Celtics where, again, I think that their ceiling is higher than the Mavericks ceiling. And there's a chance as much as they will play down to competition, there's a good of a chance that they will play up for this one.
Yeah.
Because the Mavs are going to bring the intensity, and they've got the talent that's close.
Yeah.
I really think I should go 7.
6 or 7. Celtics have home court, and maybe
they are good in the clutch, man.
This is going to be the deciding feature. Yeah.
Oddly, a lot of people seem disappointed that this is the finals matchup, and I actually think we lucked into what could be a great one. Nuggets Celtics again would not have been fun for me. I think, as long as
you say again, we haven't gotten,
I don't want it.
That's one that I felt like that was a marquee matchup that I think people wanted to see after the last couple of years. I feel like it was going to be fine. My personal opinion was if it was somebody besides the Celtics this year out of the East, that was going to feel weird. So I feel like, all right, good. We got the Celtics. Now we can see what their best shot is. And then, whoever emerges from the West was always going to be a worthy challenger. And now it looks clearly like the Mavericks, they rose to the top. Maybe the Timberwolves. No team's ever come back from 0-3. But it's going to happen in our lifetime. Right? Some team is going to come back from 0-3 in our lifetime.
Hard to lose 4 in a row.
Think
about it. Hard to lose 4 in a row.
We saw the Heat.
Sweeps are also rare.
The Heat got taken to 7, last year after going up 3-0. All these games have been so close. That's the fun part. But it looks like it's going to be Mavericks against the Celtics. And I'm with you.
We'll do a preview next week.
We'll do something. Yeah, we'll do something next week. Anyways, if you want to support the show, do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Dave, a pleasure as always. Thanks for talking ball with me. Listeners, you guys are the best. Thanks for listening. And remember, breakfast is the most important thing.
Yeah, never apologize for being G&G. Fast break, man. You understand?
I will remember